Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, great. I was muted apparently. That lovely introduction. So who have I got?
This is John Dugan.
Oh, great. Thanks. If you would start us off today, I apologize for just flapping lips.
Okay, this is John Dugan. I'm Deputy Director of the Resource Management Agency. And I just want to give you a brief update conversation about the defensible space issue I talked about before the board last Wednesday on Tuesday. Can I share a screen? Can you authorize that?
Oh, yes, please do.
Here. Defensible space is what I've got up here now. Is that property that you own around your house or your business, and when you're in an area where there could be potential for forest fires, like in a high hazard zone, state responsibility area where you have by state law to protect your property from a fire hazard by doing certain things about trimming up the trees and taking out the grass, cutting the grass, being sure that there's nothing there that could burn if a fire comes close. And on our website at the Resource Management Agency, we've got posted this one pager, which is a summary of the things you can do without a permit. We like this to be known to the public as we're getting close to fire season. There's also on that website a lot of information about defensible space from the state, about the zones involved and what you have to do. And there's lots of good information there. So if you go to the website for the Resource Management Agency under planning and under resources, there's a section on defensible space. Now, last Tuesday at the Board of Supervisors, I gave them this talk about defensible space, and there were some issues that they were wanting answers to about what I just showed you, how the website was giving public information, and about some of the issues that were coming up in the future. The state has by law a lot of legislation going on in Sacramento about this, to come up with new defensible space guidelines for the public and for businesses. There's a particular new Senate bill which has been introduced both last year and this year, which bears some watching. And if you're any investigative people on the call here that might be interested in it, it's Senate Bill 474, which would restrict or prohibit any new development in the state responsibility areas of the high fire hazard zones in every county in the state. This would have huge impact on Monterey County, as almost all of our development is taking place in those areas outside of Salinas Valley and the towns. So this PowerPoint's available. It was both on the county website at the board meeting, and I can send it to anybody who'd like to have a link to it. So any questions or comments?
Thank you for this. And if you would stay on the line, we'll take questions from our media participants after everyone has finished speaking.
Okay.
So I see Johnathan Thornburg from the Sheriff's Office is also on the line with us, and I'm hoping he can provide an update on testing at the jail. Good afternoon, Johnathan.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I most certainly can. We, as you know, we have continued testing. We have to date tested 360 inmates with 151 positive cases. So we had, yesterday was a Saturday, we had no positives, but yesterday we had 66 come back positive out of the 84 that were tested. We also have tested 178 staff members, and we had 5 come back positive over the weekend for a total of 9. So again, that's 360 inmates tested with 151 positive and 178 staff tested with 9 positive. Nobody else has gone to the hospital except for the 2 that we previously reported, and we continue testing on a daily basis. In fact, we're waiting for more test results to come back today.
All right, thank you for that. Are we also scheduled to have Henry Gonzalez, our Ag Commissioner, on? I'm not seeing his name up on the list, but I was thinking he might have joined by cell. Henry, are you on the call? And I'm not hearing him, so we'll just go on. I see Dr. Moreno is with us, so we'll get an update on public health. Good afternoon, Dr. Moreno.
Hi, good afternoon, Maya. So hello, everybody. So we are still working community-wide to try to slow the spread of COVID-19, still relying on our community members, people who live here, work here, people who visit here, to follow prevention strategies to slow down the spread of COVID-19, which again is using face coverings, keeping 6 foot distance between yourself and anyone that's not from your household, washing hands and frequently, and disinfecting commonly touched surfaces. Also looking for businesses to continue to comply with state guidance and excuse me, state guidance that issued for those businesses that can still operate certain activities, and for anyone visiting businesses to follow the request of those businesses and their employees to follow the prevention guidelines as well. Monterey County continues to follow the metrics that we set up for purpose of attestation to move through stage 2 and 3 and 4 of the state's plan for reopening. And the state continues to report out on their metrics for the purposes of reinstituting restrictions on certain businesses and business activities within the counties. Monterey County continues to be on the monitoring list, particularly for the case rate, the 14-day case rate. We continue to exceed the threshold that the state has set, and we are in the company of about 31 or 32 other counties who are in a similar situation. As you're aware, last week the governor did announce, and the state health officer did issue guidance, which serves as a requirement for each county on the monitoring list, regarding the reopening of schools for in-class, in-person instruction this fall. Because Monterey County, well, excuse me, the requirements are that a school may choose to open for in-person instruction if the school is in a county that has not been on the state's monitoring list for 14 consecutive days. Monterey County is currently on the monitoring list, and looking at the recent trend in 14-day case rate, at this time, I can't see that there's a trend downward or potential for a trend downward to get us off the monitoring list for that particular metric. So at this time, it does not appear that schools will be able to open for in-class, in-person instruction this year in Monterey County. So what we're doing at this point is we are continue to work with the California Department of Public Health and our local superintendents. I've been in communication with Dr. Dugan, and as she provides questions that are coming from our superintendents, which is expected. And they are, as they look at the guidance, they will identify particular issues that only they would be able to recognize as a challenge or an issue that may need further interpretation of the guidance or clarification as necessary. And so I've been able to work with California Department of Public Health to get some initial responses on clarifications of the orders that the superintendents need to plan appropriately. So again, I think it's very important that we all do what we can to slow down the spread of COVID-19. And that includes, again, those of us who live here, work here, and visitors to Monterey County and our businesses and people who frequent those businesses, to do what we can to slow down the spread of COVID-19, so that we can hopefully get to a point where we'll be able to hopefully not have any more closures or restrictions on businesses and schools. So everyone has a role to play, and so hopefully we can all do our part. So I'll end there. Thank you, Matt.
All right, thank you, Dr. Moreno. Now we'll go ahead and take some questions. I see there's some conversation already going on chat and some questions are being answered, so I'll leave those to chat. Dr. Moreno, this question I think is for you. The state announced it will move to provide guidance so personal care services, barbershops, salons, and the like can perform services outdoors. Do you have a reaction to that?
Oops. Hey, man. No, I actually don't. I'm not. I haven't seen any guidance come out, and I haven't. My group of health officers, I don't think we've had that conversation yet with California Department of Public Health. So, but when I do have my meetings with them, I'm sure there'll be questions that we'll be discussing about how certain businesses can continue to operate outside of outdoors, basically. So, thank you.
You. And then another question for you. Could you please expand on how you think the 14-day case rate is not moving in a downward trend? Why do you see it not decreasing?
Sure, ma'am. So what we're seeing is typical for pandemic. Early on, which is an exponential increase in cases in Monterey and in California. So even early on in the pandemic here in Monterey County, after we saw our first few cases, we couldn't stop the spread of COVID-19, but we could reduce the spread and reduce the rate at which it's spreading. But with the pandemic, ultimately, the number of cases on a daily basis will slowly rise and increase, even if we continue to slow. All these efforts that we're doing can slow down the spread, but it can't stop the spread of COVID, of a viral pandemic. But it is very critical that we all do what we can. So given that the nature of a pandemic due to a novel virus, we do expect the rate to slowly increase in Monterey County and in most counties here in California. And so for that reason, based on the current thresholds that the state has set, we will probably exceed, I believe it's threshold of 100 per 100,000 individuals in a county over 14 days, probably exceeding that number for some time. We would have to have, I believe, probably less than 30 new cases a day on average over 14 days in order to get us off the monitoring list for that particular indicator. We're exceeding the threshold of 100. We have for some time now. So that's the reason I think that we'll probably be on the monitoring list, this particular monitoring list moving forward. If the criteria, the metrics and the thresholds and the criteria for opening or non-opening businesses and schools go unchanged, I don't see much of a change in the near future.
All right, thank you, Dr. Moreno. That is all the questions that I have on chat. Are there any other additional questions for any of our speakers today? I am not seeing anything come through. Does anyone have a question they just want to ask before I end our briefing?
Mayor, this is Joe over at the Salinas Californian.
Hi, Joe.
I was just wondering if Thornburg, could you please repeat the numbers per day, the testing numbers per day?
How far back, Joe?
Yeah, just what you presented just earlier during your talk, like how many on Saturday, how many on Sunday, and that I think you said it's up to 151. That's the total number of people tested, right?
151 is the total number of inmates that have come back positive.
Okay.
Out of 360 that we've tested. The breakdown of those two numbers is on Saturday, we tested 36 inmates, 0 positives. On Sunday, it was 84 with 66 positives. And actually, let me rephrase that. It was the 84 were tested on Saturday. We got the results on Sunday, and so on and so forth. And then as far as staff goes, it was 19 on Saturday with 3 positive, 9 on Sunday with 2 positive.
All right. And real quickly, I guess, are these all individuals from the same housing units, or are these new cases coming from housing units where there previously wasn't any known cases?
We've got a couple from a new housing unit, although they're all the same inmate classification, but different housing unit.
And then Jonathan, I've got another question. Are you making any additional or new efforts to slow the spread in the jail, perhaps housing situations?
The biggest change is what we've already presented was we opened up what we call a block in the new housing unit and the new jail to take incomings, because unlike CDC, we still have people coming in every day. They come into custody every day. So they go into the new block where they are in a single cell. They stay there for the quarantine time. They're tested prior to going into general population. Outside of that, we continue the cleaning, we continue the spray or the use of PPE and distancing and wearing of masks and everything else that the public can do to help mitigate the spread of COVID-19.
All right, thank you. And let's see, do I have a new, I do have a question for Dr. Moreno. I'm hoping you're still on the line. Does the governor's reopening guideline, or do the governor's reopening guidelines for schools apply to private schools?
Yeah, Maya. So yes, we asked that question to California Department of Public Health on Friday morning, and they did confirm that it does apply to both public and private schools in each jurisdiction.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for any of our presenters today? I'm not hearing, I'm not seeing anything else on chat, not hearing anything. Then we'll wrap up our briefing for Monday. Our next briefing is Friday, and we'll see you then.